And good afternoon. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live at Secret Knock with one of the speakers that was on stage yesterday and continues to have many people want to meet her. You will know her name if I say Tiger King. It is Carole, and she is here to talk to me on the side as Dr. Marissa to find out her side of things that did not get shown on Tiger King. So, without further ado, did I do that on you already? I don't have an answering machine. Did I do that? No? Awesome. So, I don't have an answering machine. I have a questioning machine. And when you call me, it says, "Who are you and what do you want?" So, Carole Baskin, who are you and what do you want?
Well, I am Carole Baskin, and I want a world where all wildcats live free.
And I guess I'll get straight to the point. Did you kill your first husband?
No. My first husband actually died from a heart attack. My second husband, if anybody watched Tiger King, which we determined nobody in that crowd did, except for one guy. One guy did come up to me. But in Tiger King 2, one of my enemies from Tiger King 1 produced a document from the Homeland Security saying that my husband, Don Lewis, my second husband, was alive and well in Costa Rica 5 years at least after I last saw him.
So you heard it here. Stop speculating. Stop MSU University making shiitake up when you're watching the show. So now that we have that out of the way, did you think as a child that this would be something that you were going to be doing?
No, I thought I would be rescuing domestic cats and kittens from being killed in shelters due to overpopulation, and thought that that would be a very expensive endeavor because when I was a kid in the 70s, there were something like 3.5 million cats dying every year in U.S. shelters. And so the only way to fix that is through aggressive spay and neuter. And that's still on my roadmap. I just got to take care of this big cat thing first.
Yeah. So what was the incident that first made you go, I need to help the big cats?
Oh, wow. Because I was spending so much time in veterinary offices because I loved cats, when a bobcat gets hit by a car, the vets can fix them up in 30 minutes or so, but then you're talking months of rehab before they can be released. And they're like, you like cats, you like feral cats, these cats you can't touch, can you take care of these cats? And so from the time that I was 17 years old, I've done bobcat rehab and release.
And where was that?
This was in West Virginia and in Florida.
Wow. Okay. So the rehabilitative part of your practice or your life's work started young.
Yes.
Right?
I left home at 15, so I was already out on my own by the time I was 17.
Can I ask why?
It was a huge misunderstanding between my parents and I. My father would not allow me to work. My parents were very poor, and I felt like I should help support the family. And my mother and I, for the first time ever, got into a fight. And we had been like best friends my whole life. I was 15 years old, and we had never had a fight, never had a harsh word. And she said, when I get home, I don't want to see you here. And I thought she meant ever. So I packed up everything and left home, and then didn't check in until, I don't know, probably close to a year later, and found out they had APBs out for me in 5 different states because, of course, she didn't mean that. She meant just stay in your room tonight because I'm sick to death of you.
Oh, wow. That's horrible.
Yeah, it was really horrible for everybody.
But you reconnected?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And
in fact, both of my parents worked for me until my father died in 2016 and my mother retired in 2018.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a tough one, though. I mean, that was a rough year for both of you, probably.
It was, I was living on the street, sleeping under trucks. I would sleep underneath trucks so that people wouldn't see me sleeping out on the street because I was a pretty young girl and I didn't want people taking advantage of me. But I had to always be kind of listening for who's going to move this car first thing in the morning, and I got to get out from under it.
Good Lord. So you went to the School of Hard Knocks a little bit, huh?
Yes. It's a great school. I recommend it to everybody.
I don't know if I recommend it, but it definitely is it's a good teaching tool, right?
Yes.
And I did see you tear up a little, and I want to say thank you.
Aww.
Because I love when my guests cry, because tears are the disinfectant that keep your heart soft. So thanks for opening yours to me. And I'm sorry that you went through that, but I'm really glad that you came out of it and you reconciled and you've learned.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So when did
Really
all
careful
this...
about what I say to my daughter.
Yeah, please don't. If you have a fight, say you can come home tonight. I just don't want to see you for another 4 hours, right? And how old is your daughter now?
She's going to be 42 this summer.
Okay. And you have a good relationship with her.
She runs the sanctuary.
Oh, she does. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That how nice to have your daughter do that.
In fact, today I got a call about a bobcat that was in trouble. And so I'm like, I'm in California. And so she ran out to see if she could help it, but the cat escaped her. So we're going to be contacting all the neighbors and saying, hey, if you see this cat, let us know.
Yeah. It just got loose.
Well, it's supposed to be loose, but what's happening in Florida is a disease called FLM, and it's wiping out the Florida panther and the Florida bobcat. And what they look like is like they're drunk. They just kind of wobble all over the place and they can't catch their food. But he was still mobile enough to get away from our people, so you have to wait until they're really, really down before we can catch them.
Right. All right, so we cleared up the murder one. Now let's clear up the other one. When did all that start? Like, I know the series, I don't even know if it talked about, like, the first volley, like, who did the first volley. I'm guessing Joe. But tell me how that all came about.
I've never even spoken to Joe Exotic. So the whole idea that they made this into a feud was ridiculous. There's a show out right now by Kate McKinnon called Joe versus Carole. And they actually show very clearly how this whole thing started, whereas Tiger King did not.
No.
But to answer your question, what had happened was I keep a website called 911 Animal Abuse. And whenever there are big cats that are being abused by people, I put it on this site so that when people contact me and they say, what do you know about this place? It's got all of their citations, all of the reports, everything that I can find for that person. So I had 21 different entities that I was tracking, and they all turned out to be Joe. And one day I realized, I was like, look at the pictures here. This guy that's wearing these handcuffs and has this mullet and this goatee, he's in every single one of these pictures, but every one of them had a different banner, like Great Awakening and Cody Ryan and Joe Exotic and all of these different names. And so when I went to my husband, I was like, look at this. There's 21 of these people, and they're all this guy, Joe Schreibvogel. And so my husband said, my husband's a Harvard MBA, and he has a law degree but doesn't practice law. And he's like, well, let me write that page up because he's really good at organizing. And so he did that. Joe had a fit when he saw that. So it's always been between my husband and Joe, never between me and Joe.
But he didn't put the hit out on your husband, he put the hit out on you.
Yeah. And I think, it's because it's easier to blame a woman when you're somebody like him that just had such a horrible relationship with his mother. And I feel for the guy. I feel like everybody does the best that they can for where they are at this point in their path, and so I can't hold that against him.
Well, that's a very magnanimous and generous way to summarize that experience, and kudos to you. It's actually something that I say that everybody does the very best that they can do. If they could do better, they would.
I think so.
But they can't, so I'm not going to let myself get all, my undies tied up because of what they're doing. But he's still in jail, as far as I know, yes?
He is. He had petitioned for a reduced sentence. He had been given 22 years, and under the petition, they gave him 21 years. So I feel like I'm still safe for a while.
Yeah. That is hard. You got death threats?
I got death threats from him and from a lot of these other people. So that was the thing I think Tiger King really missed the boat on, is they knew, because I dealt with them for 5 years, talking to them about all these different people and showing them all of the threats. And all of these guys know each other, and so it's just a network of really nasty, angry animal abusers that didn't want their industry to stop, and they felt like if they could just shut me up, that it would. And so, or if they could shut me up, they could keep doing what they were doing. And all of the negative things that they have said about me are because there's no good argument for what they do. If the media is talking to them about their cute little cubs, and I say, well, none of those cubs can ever go free, and come back next year and see if you can even find any of those cubs, and you can't, they can't talk about that. So they start saying all of the horrible things about, well, she must have fed her husband to the tigers because he disappeared. No, he just disappeared. I didn't feed him to the tigers.
You mentioned the 5 years that you worked with Tiger King, and I was struck on stage when you said you thought it was going to be like The Cove or Blackfish, and I actually got to interview Rick O'Barry
Oh,
from The
wow.
Cove.
Wow.
So this is kind of cool. You're going to be on my show too. So I've got this, the animal activism going on with with the theme, which is good. Did they? When did it change? Like, did they mislead you thinking that it was going to be more like that?
When they were filming it, in fact, one of the guys who worked on The Cove, and now his name is escaping me, but one of the producers was one of the producers for what ended up being Tiger King. But for the 5 years that I was filming, they said it was going to be called, it was either Stolen World or Stolen Wildlife. And as recently as, I'm thinking it was probably October or November of the year before this show came out, they showed me their sizzle reel and what they were trying to get CNN to buy. And CNN was the one that ran Blackfish. And the whole show was exactly what we had been talking about. It was showing all of these horrible people doing horrible things to the animals. And it talked about how there were a couple of people, me and Brittany Pete from PETA, who were trying to stop it. And so that's what we thought they were working on. But CNN didn't buy it. And so what I'm thinking is when they realized we've got this show, we've spent 5 years on it, we're never going to get our money back unless we turn it into something fictional and sell it to somebody like Netflix. And so I think that's why they did what they did.
But they never came to you and said,
No.
"Oh, I'm so sorry." Well, as I say too, when bad things happen, I say I can't wait to see what good comes out of this.
Absolutely.
So, what good came out of this for you?
When I would go to Congress and lobby for our bill, and I've been trying to get this bill passed since 1998, I got a version of it done in 2003 that made it illegal to sell a big cat across state lines as a pet. And part of the reason that Joe Exotic and some of these other guys are now indicted is because they've violated that Lacey Act law. But what I've been trying to do since 2003 is close the loopholes that were caused by this cub petting, where they're breeding hundreds of these cats each year. And then they can only use them for about a month, and then they have to get rid of them, which is why they disappear. And so,
They kill them?
there's rumors from these places saying that as soon as they can't use them, they kill them and incinerate them. What I found, we actually did a show called Carole Baskin's Cage Fight, and it's streaming on Discovery Plus.
Okay.
And Joe Exotic's niece worked with me, and she said, "I'll show you where the bodies are buried." And what she did was we went out there, we dug up all of these tiger cubs that, after they were just a little bit too big to be used, and all of their teeth had been cut out because they can sell the teeth for jewelry, and she said that he did that all the time. And they can sell the bones, they can sell the hides. And so we actually, that show, if you want to see bloodshed and car chases and drone footage and me going after these bad guys like I have been for the last 25 years, then that's the show to watch.
Okay. And what is that called, and where is it?
It's called Carole Baskin's Cage Fight, which I thought was a clever name.
Very
I didn't come up
clever.
with it. And it's streaming live on, or not live, but it's streaming on Discovery Plus.
Okay. So you can watch that for the other side to balance out the Tiger King MSU stuff.
But to answer your question, when I would go to Congress, they had never heard of cub petting. They didn't know that people were doing this. And so when I said we need a law to ban this, they're like, nobody's doing that. It's not a big deal. And then Tiger King came out and they're like, oh my gosh, there are a lot of bad people doing bad things. So it turned out to be the good thing.
That's the good thing that came out. And I'm sure more good things are going to come out because
Yes.
you're obviously not going to stop what you're doing for a little while, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm so glad I met you because honestly, the way that they depicted you and all of that was just so believable. And I feel horrible now for even thinking that you did all of that they insinuated that you did. So I'm very glad that I got to meet you in person. I am going to go out on a limb and actually give you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award, which I don't give all my guests, for the work that you're doing and talk about in spite of hardship, a lot of hardship, you're still continuing to do. Now tell me the good news about the legislation that's passing. You mentioned that on stage, as well as the story about how you said, was it on your vision board?
That was so funny.
That was the funniest thing you said.
The day I saw that and realized what had happened, I was like, oh, you got to be careful what you wish for.
Yes. So what was it?
So I've had a vision board since probably about 2005, and it was inspired by The Secret. So Oprah was such a huge proponent of The Secret.
Yes.
Created my vision board way back then, and one of the things said, everybody knows my name. And I thought that meant everybody knows my name in the song Cheers and, from the show Cheers.
Right.
Not like everybody knows my name.
I know. My girlfriend in Guam, I told her that I got a soundbite with you, and I think I was going to interview. She's like, no way, Carole Baskin. So everybody does know your name. Hopefully, this will help balance out all the bad news. As well, the new legislation that just passed, when is that go into effect?
Well, actually, it passed the House in the last session with a 2/3 majority vote, but it was the last month of the session, and we didn't get it through the Senate. So that meant in the beginning of this session, which was January a year ago, we had to start all over again. And I've been starting over every year, every 2 years. But we're up to 300 co-sponsors across the House and the Senate, which means we do have the 2/3 we need in the House. And right now we're working on Senate co-sponsors. And so I really think this year, the year of the tiger, is going to be the year.
How perfect is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Again,
Yeah.
everything happens like it should.
Exactly. And just so you know, I've had 2/3 of the speakers on The Secret on my show.
Oh my goodness.
So actually, my best-selling book, 8 Ways to Happiness, was endorsed by Neil Donald Walsh on the back cover.
Oh, how
and
nice.
the foreword was written by Michael Bernard Beckwith, who's like my big brother. He's the one actually who introduced me to Oprah as the Asian Oprah. So when you mention The Secret, Lisa Nichols has been on there. So it's kind of cool.
Wow.
But even though your vision board wasn't exactly what you had hoped
Yeah,
it
you
to
got to make your
be.
vision board exact. It
In
could
a
happen to
positive
you.
way, right? Right, for sure. Now, the last question that I ask all of my guests, actually before that, is there anything else that you wanted to, say to whoever is going to watch this? And
You know what I hope people would do is go to cubtruth.com. We have some videos there of what really happens with these cubs. And at the end, then you can actually reach out through a service that we provide. You just put in your name and address, and it actually will contact your member of Congress. It has a pre-filled email for you, a pre-filled tweet for you, and it'll even dial their phone number for you and give you a little script. Yeah.
make change easy in the
Yes.
legislation. That's so wonderful. So the last question I ask my guests is, to who or what are you most grateful for?
Oh, wow. There's such a long list of, in fact, I lay in bed every morning before I get out of bed, and I just think of all the things that I'm grateful for until I just run out of things or think, I got to get out of bed because I can't do this all morning. And I think the people who have been the biggest help to me in the last 20 years, of course, have been my husband and my daughter.
Beautiful. And their names are?
Howard Baskin is my husband. We're going to celebrate 20 years together in November. And
Any plans?
no, we don't have any.
Okay.
Yeah, we should do something.
Yes, absolutely. I endorse that.
We work 7 days a week from daylight to dark. And then my daughter, Jamie, has been taking care of the cats since she was 12 years old. She runs the sanctuary. She runs the volunteer program. She's just a powerhouse. And so I could not be here doing this sort of thing if it weren't for her.
Wonderful. Well, that satisfies my compliment Tuesday as well, because every Tuesday I make people do compliments. So you did that. And I wish you very much well. Tell everybody once again where they go to watch things, where they go to sign up. And please do go and support Carole Baskin. God knows she's deserved it after what she's gone through.
So please go to cubtruth.com. You can see Carole Baskin's Cage Fight on Discovery Plus. It's streaming. And I would actually recommend Joe versus Carole that Kate McKinnon just came out with. It's 8 episodes, but one of the people that watched it said it sounded like an 8-hour ad for why we need the Big Cat Public Safety Act, which is the federal bill that we're working on. So I thought, if that's the takeaway people get, then they should watch it, even though it's not entirely accurate.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing it's a tad bit more accurate than Tiger King was.
Probably 100 times more accurate. But still, it's hard for somebody to really tell your whole life story.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, thanks again.
Thank
I wish
you,
you
Dr.
very much
Marissa.
well. And this is what I do at the end of every show. Let's see if we can do it with this hand. Peace in. Actually, you did it with me already.
did.
Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live with Carole Baskin here at Secret Knox, and I'm going to bring this interview to you on Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show on CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports radio station KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
I love that.